Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So as I stated, I was going to tell you exactly how I do my investment planning and saving for every single year. Well, my life is very stable. And when it comes to that stability, I like to keep things in the same order. It's very systematic. Before we get started today, please make sure to like the video. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel, as I'm going to give you an in-depth understanding of how I go about life specifically. Here's one thing that might shock you. Although the number one thing that I advocate for is a budget, I actually do not have a budget. I know. I just blew a whole bunch of people's minds. Everyone is like, whoa, the finance guy, the educating guy, the investing guy does not actually use a budget. When I go to the grocery store, I'm like Nicki Minaj. I don't look at the price tag, okay? I'm just buying what I want, put it in the bag. Do I want steak today? Do I want lamb chops today? Put it in the bag. I will not lie to you. My favorite thing to do is eat. And so when it comes to food, I rarely ever compromise. But I'm in a position to where I can do that. And let me not just act like I've been doing that my entire life. Although I have, subconsciously, it's always been different. So for example, when I was in college, I would get the frozen French fries, the chicken nuggets, college stuff, right? But when I moved into my apartment, I was living a little better. I was getting the key lime pie. I was getting all this other stuff. And then when I moved into my house, it was steak every night, chicken, whatever. We don't eat frozen French fries no more, if that's what you want to hear. But it was all based on my current situation. So understand that although I never really planned for how much I was going to spend, I knew how much money I had at all times and how I was going to utilize it. For example, I check my bank accounts at least once every 2 days. At least once every 2 days. I check my investments, the majority of my investments, at least once every 2 days. It's sometimes every single day, but stuff like my Series I bonds, I rarely ever check those. It's just too much work to get in there and check on the Series I bonds. But I do check on my Roth IRA investments, which I max out every single year. I do check on my individual stock market investments. I do check on my real estate and how I'm going to pay down the debts and add more principal every single year, and how much extra money I'm putting on top of that. I do check on my rents, making sure that rental income is coming in. I do check on my dividend growth sometimes, just to ensure that, it's growing positively and is trajecting the way I would like it to go. When it comes to my stocks, I do stocks probably twice a year. So I use the same stocks all the time, right? I like dividend growth stocks. That means it must have some dividends, and then it must be growing over time. I don't want something that is not going to grow over time and just pay me out a dividend. So I'm not looking for AT&T with a 17% dividend, but is actually going down in value in terms of growth. I'm looking for something like an Apple stock that is currently on the rise, or a McDonald's stock that is always growing in value, but still will provide me with some cash flow in the form of dividends. I want to be able to hold on to the company for the entirety of my life and still receive cash that I can take out in retirement just from the dividend growth alone, which means my stocks will always be going up in value and always remain high, but the cash flow, I can take some of that out in the form of a dividends. Stuff like Tesla that I have in my portfolio, or let's say if you decide to buy Google or Amazon, you're actually going to have to sell that company in order to receive your profits, your earnings, your rewards. In my scenario where I'm a dividend investor, I don't ever have to sell. I can always keep my primary investment, but then take out the dividends in the long term. So what do I do to be financially free and stable? So The only time that I'm ever in emergency mode. Emergency mode means that my savings are possibly depleted, is when I'm buying real estate investments. Why would I be in emergency mode when I buy real estate investments? You see, there is no reward without risk, right? Whether that risk is getting an education and not getting into the right profession, or getting into the right profession, whether that risk is working additional hours, putting wear and tear on your body, or even driving to work, right? That's a risk every single day in order to receive a reward. For me, my risk was, because I'm young, I'm going to go all in right now, and I'm going to do it as big as I possibly can. So when I bought my first property, it was 10% down on a $140,000 mortgage. The risk of losing that deal was, it was actually a $145,000 property. I renegotiated it down to $140,000, and then I also was looking to get some cash back as well. So on top of that, I then put 10% down to lower the monthly payment, and I still had to service this loan prior to getting a tenant into the property, right? So there was a lot of work that was done, but the reward was, this was a rehabbed property, so it looked really, really brand new. This was a 3-bedroom, so it was family friendly. This was in an up and coming area, but not the best. So I was still able to get decent rents, and the interest rate was 2.625%. So it was very, very advantageous for me to get in at this time. It was on a 30-year, and so I was able to maximize that 10% down, and I was able to get not only a $5,000 discount, but that lowered the monthly mortgage payment by however much, whether it's $20 or more. Once I got a tenant into the property, I was able to find a long-term tenant. There was a risk because I increased rents every single year for the last 2 years, and I still have that tenant being in my property until June of 2024, with the possibility of renewal. Because of this, I understand that that was a big risk, but a huge reward in putting all of my savings into that at that time. Again, when I left the Army, I did the exact same thing. I went bigger. I wanted more for my buck. And so I put 10% down on a $215,000 property. This was all of my cash at the time. I wanted to ensure I had a conventional loan. I put 10% down because I knew that it was better than 3.5% on the FHA, because the PMI would drop off once I hit 20%. And by maximizing this investment, I was able to get the biggest house that I could afford at the time. Me being young, in my early 20s, I also understood that there was a possibility for bigger minimum wages, bigger growth as a manager, all these things that would contribute to more money for me and making the monthly rent, the monthly mortgage payment, that less expensive. So those risks that I took early on had me change my strategy. I had to save aggressively for the first couple of months. It took me 8 months of saving before I could really start to breathe a little bit. In fact, after month 6, I started to feel as though my emergency fund was where it was, to where I could relax a little bit. I also had tenants, so I was having cash coming in, offsetting the mortgage, which allowed me to save aggressively. I did not wait, right? I started to rent by the room. I had my mortgage basically paid by others. And so I was able to literally take my income and put that into savings month over month over month. I did not sniff a restaurant. I did not sniff a grocery store. I just literally was eating rice and whatever else that I could in order to survive while saving. Now, once my savings is in a good place, I can then start to invest aggressively. One thing about me, I'm always going to invest $100 a month no matter what, and then $6,000 at the beginning of every month into my individual stock market accounts. That has not changed over the last 5 years. I do not break that for anything. And I do not use my stocks to invest in real estate either. And because of this, I need to strategize this properly. I don't want to give out $500 every single month in stocks in order to reach my $6,000 goal. So at the beginning of every year, I always just put $6,000 into the stock market, and then I start to do my $100 every single month, month over month over month over month for 12 months. So that's about $7,200 for anybody doing the math. And then again, I still put 14% into my Roth IRA. Now, when we're talking about savings, I always put $140 into my emergency fund at the beginning of every month. Why 140? I don't know, but that's just what I do. And then, because I have so much passive income from rental income, from VA income, from my actual job, and from YouTube, I then put maybe $1,000 or $2,000 every single month into my savings account. So that's what I'll do. I'll just continue to throw additional money into savings. And then sometimes, this is a very rare case, very, very rare. But sometimes if I find a stock that is very undervalued, like in 2023, Facebook, when they was coming out with Meta, was very, very undervalued at the beginning of the year. Guess what I did? I put $2,000 into Facebook, and now that thing went up like 98%, because everybody was like, Meta isn't going to do good. It's a 10-year projection. They didn't want to invest right now. I mean, this is the best time to invest. You have to be smart. You have to be outward looking. Now, of course, for those who don't have 10 years to wait, that might not be the smart investment for you. But for someone like me who is very young, I knew that it was time for me to get in now and put in a decent amount of money now so that I can reap the benefits and reap the rewards later. When they say Meta has 5x, Meta has 10x, I'll be one of those people who is reaping the benefits of that. And so you'll start to understand that, whoa, Festus has a systematic process in which he saves $140. He invests $100 every single month. That's already $240 in fixed expenses. He also invests 14% into his Roth IRA. And then on top of that, at the beginning of every year, he invests an additional $6,000 into the stock market. All his additional money either goes into savings or looking for different investings. Now, I have a savings account and I have an emergency savings account, right? In the savings account, I can use that to either invest in stocks or into more real estate. Right now, my real estate portfolio is way bigger than my investing portfolio. It's probably double my investing portfolio right now, especially with all the appreciation and growth over the last 3 years. So I do focus a little bit more on the stocks right now, but I also understand that if a good real estate deal comes around, I will be wanting to buy, and then I will need that cash flow in order to do it. A lot of real estate properties right now that I want is multifamily, and those are costing right around $600,000 right now in an interest rate environment that is well over 6.6%, especially for investors. And so this is going to require a 25% to 20% down payment. And then on top of that, the rental income is really not where it needs to be. And so I'm still waiting on the sidelines on that, which gives me more time to focus on the stock market, which is probably the easiest gateway to entry in terms of an investment. Here are some things now, separating myself from the investment portion of the video. Here are some things that truly do keep me in check. Festus, you don't budget. If you waited this long to understand how I truly finite my process, finalize things, then here's the take for you. Once you get to my situation where basically all your expenses are paid and you're just looking at saving, here's one thing that keeps me in check. Okay, I go to the grocery store. Although I don't have a budget in mind, I know that I typically don't spend more than $250 on groceries. And when I shop for groceries, it's typically once a month. But now I do find myself going maybe twice a month. How do you shop for groceries once a month? Okay, I don't buy 2% milk. that helps. I typically buy skim milk, which is good for like 3-4 months, but I finish it in about a month. The 3 cartons. I buy eggs. Those are typically good for I don't even know, but definitely at least a month. I buy whether it's chicken that you can freeze in a freezer and take one out at a time, or red meat that's probably good for like 2 weeks at most in terms of the taste if you put it in a freezer. These are the things that I would typically buy. Vegetables, onions, nice veggies, things like that. And then if I do go to the store, it'll be for stuff that expire a little bit quickly, like guacamole, plantains, tomatoes, that you might need to get more than once a month, maybe every 2 weeks or so. These are the things that I typically buy, and so my budget is always around $200 to $250 a month. The only time that I touch like maybe $270, $280 is when I decide, okay, I'm gonna buy some steak, I'm gonna buy some lamb, things like that may take my budget a little bit over what it typically is. And when I say budget, it's just like a mental budget for me, because I don't necessarily write down what everything is going to cost. I don't use coupons, things like that. Not that I'm opposed to it. I would absolutely use it if someone just said, here's a coupon, go ahead and look for stuff. I would actually find that very enjoyable and very fun as a process to do. But that's just not my lifestyle. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it and lie to you. And then another reason why my budget may fluctuate to like 270 or 280 in a given month is when I have to buy like other essential products like toothpaste, mouthwash, things like that. And so like today I'm going to go and buy some more mouthwash because I'm running out. So that's one of those little things that tend to happen. And also I'm going to buy cookies for my family members so that they can chow down on a few desserts and sweets like that. But I always look at my credit cards too. I only really use one credit card, and I always am looking at that, and I'm always looking at my checking account, not my savings account, not my emergency fund, but my checking account. I keep a decent amount in my checking account every single month to pay off my credit card and to service my mortgages without any hiccups or issues. I'm always monitoring to know how much money I have, how much money can I spend, without having to dig into my savings. And this has always been a blessing and a benefit to me, to know that I can always just look at my checkings, always look at the money coming in, pay off any credit card stuff, and then go ahead and do my own thing with the savings as well. And when I have no credit card debt and a whole bunch of check stuff in my checking, I can either buy that nice thing that I wanted, which right now would be a beautiful vacuum cleaner for the house, or I can go ahead and save that money and put it into my savings, which won't be touched unless it's for stocks or investing, right? And then I have my emergency fund for emergencies, which thankfully I haven't had many emergencies. And honestly, when an emergency does arise, like the sink falling down in one of my rental properties, I can typically pay for that right out of my checking account. It's like a $200 repair or $250. Just write that off and you're good to go. So that's typically how I do things. I'm always monitoring my credit, always monitoring, not really my credit, my credit cards, always monitoring my checking account, always monitoring the investments, the savings, in order to ensure that everything is where it needs to be, everything is in its place. Oh, it went up today, oh, it went down today, cool. And then as I'm looking at things, if I was in the red for like 2 weeks straight in the stock market, I would start to analyze my stocks. I would start to say, whoa, what's going on? Is this all across the board, or is it just the stocks that I chose, right? So I want to know these things. I want to be in the know. You have to love what you do. A lot of people are afraid to look at their savings, their checkings, their investing. They don't want to know that they failed at something. For me, this is a blessing that I can see everything right here, right now, and take control of everything from the comfort of my own home or with the use of my cellular device. And so that's very important to me, and it allows me to keep in check. If I only checked my credit card every 3 months, I promise you I would not be a good financial saver, a good educated investor, good at anything, period, because I'm not keeping on track with my own expenses to be able to invest properly, to be able to save properly, to be able to go and buy the things that I want and like and need, right? There are things that always come up: a chargeback on a credit card, a missed payment. My dental payment that I made earlier in the year didn't go through, or they may have changed their system and then they charged me again for it. I'm like, where did this come from? So I'm looking at all of my service dates to make sure that I'm not paying twice for the same service, and then I paid them again. But these are the little things that may happen that could possibly throw you off. Thankfully, it was only $84 to clean my teeth. But I mean, there's bigger expenses that may do the same thing later down the line, and you have to be aware and you have to be prepared for that. And so, again, I'm just giving you a few little nuggets. Check your credit, check your credit cards, check your checking account, check your savings, check your investments all the time. Once a day, twice every week. You should at least check twice every week just to have a decent frame of mind. But yes, for me, I'm always going to have my fixed savings, my fixed investments, and then we go and disperse it out. I already know what my lifestyle is like. Here's the last breakdown for you today. So I know I'm going to save $140 every month guaranteed. I know I'm going to invest $100 every month outside of my Roth IRA guaranteed. And this is not including the $6,000 at the beginning of the year. And this is not including the 14% going into my Roth IRA. On top of that, I know that I'm also going to put an additional $300 into my principal accounts every single month, right? So I'm going to put additional principal payments into my mortgages every single month. And then lastly, I know that I'm also going to go to the store, spend around $200 to $250 on groceries every month. I know that I'm going to spend around $200 on gas every single month. It's less than that, but I like to round up just to be safe. I know that I'm going to spend $40 on my phone bill every month. I know that I'm going to spend $40 on internet every month. These are the fixed expenses in my life that I start to narrow down. I know that none of these things cost even a third of my paycheck. And so when I get money coming in from rental income, when I get money coming in from the VA, I already understand that these bills are paid with just a third of my paycheck. So what am I utilizing the 2/3 for, plus my VA pension, plus my rental income in order to do, right? The VA pension alone pays for the $100 a month in the stock market, pays for the savings, pays for the principal that goes into the mortgage payments. So now I'm just looking at the fixed internet costs, the fixed utility costs, all these other things in order to, just get my things aligned and in order. And so when you have a few extra thousands of dollars hanging around, you can then save and invest. Or you don't necessarily need to have a fixed monthly budget for your food costs and things like that you enjoy and that you go about life doing. But when I was first starting off, of course, I had a fixed food cost that I would always, have to hone in on. And then again, if I was in a situation where I am maximizing my investments in real estate, I may have to buckle down on food costs. I may have to buckle down on using my credit card on any purchase whatsoever, which I do pay off every single month, even early. A lot of the time, it doesn't even hit the statement on my credit card. You'll just see it's paid off in full. And so, just staying on top of that, your utilization. I already don't really go out to eat as much anymore. because I'm just so focused. But these are the things that I'm always constantly thinking about. These are the things that are always constantly keeping my mind going, what investments I can make. As long as you're saving, there's always going to be more opportunity. So you want to understand what you're spending money on. If there's any takeaway from this, understand what you're spending money on, understand what you have, and then understand how that breakdown is structured. I have no problem writing a budget for others because that's what they may need in order to get to the next step. So if you like this video, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. You know I post every single day at 8 a.m. daily on YouTube and on Rumble, and I can't wait to see you on the next one. Peace.